Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 36th PCN podcast. I'm Saul Goodman Jr., and we're here to talk about all things World Cup. We're going to handle first how the group stages panned out, and then look forward to the round of 16. On the panel tonight, I, of course, have Dorsey for Cow.
Save the whales.
I also have Exile.
Hi, everybody.
I have Lobo. Or I don't.
Alright, what's up?
I also have Oswald on his phone.
What's going on, guys?
And then I have Wayne Fletsky.
Cheers, Jeff.
Cheers, Wayne. All right, boys. Tonight we're going to talk about all things World Cup with the group stages in the bag. Let's go group by group and kind of look at how it panned out, starting with Group A, of course. We had Mexico ending up in first with 13 points, Germany with 11 in second, Bosnia with 7, Portugal with 6, and then the two teams left out are Ireland in 5th with 2 points, and then Belgium with 1 point. So, what do you guys think about the teams that made it, those top 4?
Well, coming from playing at Mexico, I was kind of shocked at how it turned out. We had a lot of results all over the board against, good opponents, and I think just someone has to lose, and essentially, someone has to finish in last place in these groups, because I would say the biggest game we had was a 7-0 defeat over Portugal, but then the next game they turned right around and won 5-0 or something like that the next game, and it's just there were a lot of games that the scores looked good at the end of it, but I mean it was 1-2-0 in the 70th minute, and almost all of them spare the 1-7-0, and it was we had a crazy game versus Germany. It went to the 100th minute in a regular time game. There was about 6 chances in the last 5 minutes of those extra 10. And it was just, I hope we play them again, because it was one of those games that kind of left everyone a little salty that no one got the win, because both teams kind of deserved it there. So kind of looking forward. It was great to play against all of my, a lot of fun. It was a good group.
Now, do you guys think you were actually good, or was the group so poor that you guys excelled in an otherwise poor group? I'm not insinuating that you were poor. I'm just wondering.
I would honestly say no. Well, we did click. We clicked kind of right at the end there, when before the game started, we were getting frustrated, not being able to score. And then, I think that just comes down to magic and B-God kind of taking the reins down and scoring when it matters, like good strikers do. So, we all kind of just came together as a team at the last minute, like, backs against the wall. We got to really, do this. And we did get lucky in a few, that's FIFA in every game. No one's going to just dominate the whole time. And Caesar, our goalie, was incredible. You might not think that looking at the stats, but there were more than a couple games where it was still 0-0 in the 40th minute, and he comes up with a huge double save or something. And I think everyone on the team just played really well at the right time.
To be honest with you, I think you guys are the surprise of the group stage for me, just because not only did you score the most goals, but you also conceded the fewest, which, given the group, you did have a couple of guys on Ireland who were TOTS, or at least TOTS candidates. And so to only give up 1 goal the entire group stage, I think that speaks volumes. I wasn't trying to insinuate that you guys are crap, because
we to be even more fair, we should have our only goal wasn't which was BS. I was on the line. There's a clip out there somewhere of it. Wouldn't let me clear it. So I think I just speak
an own goal because you cut out, right? Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it was just a good. Like I said, Caesar, that was the number one. Whenever there was that moment where we kind of had a breakdown on the defensive side, he was there to save our butts multiple times. But shout out to Wizard, Gang Snake, KC Nightshade. Everyone was just playing lockdown D. There was a few games where they didn't have any chances at all. So just right moment, right time for us.
Yeah, I think for me, looking at the group, I think easily the standout kind of surprise, other than you're kind of surprised in a good way. I think that you guys were so dominant. But Ireland not getting a win, only scoring 4 goals, getting knocked out of the group. I think a lot of people had them either first or second in this group going in. I think the consensus from the last podcast from the group was Mexico, Germany, Ireland top 3, and that did not happen. Belgium, I think we expected some struggles. It looks like they put a couple of fights out, but coming together with 3 days ago, that was kind of hard on them. But what do you think went wrong for Ireland? How did your game go against them? Did you feel like they just weren't clicking like they should have?
Yeah, I don't really want to call them out or anything because I can't really speak to the game too much. But there just really wasn't much there. Like we expected them to press more, and I felt like we didn't really feel that press when we were playing. Again, I don't know. I haven't talked to any of them, so I didn't really get a feeling on how that went for from their camp. But it was kind of one of those games where you just expected to kind of be under fire, and it kind of was just a slow, relaxed game that we kind of just put a couple away and nothing really to think about, But then you look at the roster, like, whoa, this is some serious talent over here. But like I said, that's the pitfalls, right, of 5 games when you practice together. That some people just you have a bad 5 games, right, and nothing really clicks. Those moments of brilliance don't come, and all of a sudden you're left at the in 5th place. And you're like, wow. I'm sure they'll be back.
Yeah.
When the next season comes around, leading teams and doing well.
I think that was my surprise as well, was Ireland. I did have a chance to talk to, not in person, but through the Discord, through Spicy. And he said just some of his key players just didn't show up. And, when you have 2 game days to show what you got and make it on to the next round, having some key players not show up for those games, it's going to put you in a serious bind.
Yeah. So out of the teams that did make it out, besides yourself, who do you think is the biggest threat in the knockout stage?
I think Germany has a good team. Well, that was one of those games that was just like, I felt like it was 50-50 split. Chance here, there would be a chance there, but a lot of game in the midfield. Portugal is a complete wild card. I feel like once we kind of took the lead on them and they got a red card and things started going bad. But then you look at their other results, they were able to kind of negate that huge goal difference. And Bosnia put together that was our last game. We scored once off my assist, no big deal, in the 40th minute or so, and then once in the 70th. But I mean, again, right there, I think that, mentality is going to be a big thing going into this because it really is just guns a-blazing, see what you can, especially that first game, try and poach one really quick. I think any of the 4 teams could do that, as been shown in the group stages.
I think that's the kind of special nature of these World Cup AFCON tournaments, is that because it's so short, anything could really happen in those 2 game days, and then all of a sudden you're left with a team that was, in my opinion, Portugal was the outside looking in. They're advancing, albeit the 4th seed, but they were able to draw Bosnia, Germany, and Ireland. And then they beat Belgium, and then their only loss was to you guys. Granted, it was 7-0.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, like what?
It's
crazy.
a little wild.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, let's take a look at Group B. My squad, Brazil, finished with 15 points in first. Denmark finished in second with 10 points. Argentina in third with 7. Ivory Coast got the final spot in 5th, albeit maybe a little controversial. We'll get to that in a minute. The New Zealand finished in 5th place with 4 points, and Italy, of course, finished in last with 1 point. So to speak on this group, why don't we lead off with Dorsey?
Yeah, this is the unlucky group of the 2019 World Cup. Italy had a goalie that they thought had signed for some reason, and at no point, I guess, double-checked the roster and played all their games on Sunday night when they won all 3, and had a bad first night, and took them from second in the group and looking like a potential World Cup favorite to out of the tournament. So
those Italians, always involved in the controversy on the soccer pitch.
Hate to see it, man. Hate to see it.
Tough.
It's easy to jest, but I mean that's a team that on the balance of play and on just talent alone, you want to see a team like that in the knockouts, and it's a shame that that just a little bit of careless management and no one on the team double checking had led to all that. So it means Ivory Coast gets a second chance. It means Argentina and Denmark get different matchups than they would have had, and we'll see how this ends up affecting the whole entire tournament.
I do want to talk about the aberration or potential aberration of Brazil going 5-0-0, where no one else went perfect. You did. What do you think that's up to or down to for your team, Saul?
I think it's just clicking at the right time. We don't have, some of the names that some of these other teams have. You can look around and see, what people would consider higher caliber players. But we play well together, and I think all the people that have been playing as our starters enjoy playing well, and they all know how, myself and the co-captains want to play as like a team, and they all kind of bought into it, and it seemed to work out well. I've got a pretty difficult matchup in the United States. Like, I wish it was any other 4th seed. I would take Portugal because we've played them a bunch. England would probably be another tough one. But United States is going to be a formidable opponent. We've played them quite a bit. So we're all looking forward opposed to back. We know the group stages doesn't mean anything at this point. I just think everyone, when it came down to it, bought in and played the way that I was hoping they would play, and it seemed to be working out well.
Yeah, you did a great job. I mean, putting a team together like that it's not easy, especially in a group with the outspoken Denmark team, whether viable or not what they're saying, they're outspoken.
Unlucky.
And then obviously Italy having that crash and burn. So either way, you went through the group stage perfectly. So good on you.
Yeah, I would say none of the teams were easy to play against too, and that's one thing I think might be overlooked by Italy not advancing because of those defaults. Is that the Ivory Coast kind of like snuck in there, but I think we only beat Ivory Coast 2-1. I think Denmark was 1-0. Argentina was 3-2. Like, they were all close games. I don't think any of those teams were slouches, and I think Ivory Coast will put up a fight, even though they've got probably the second toughest matchup against Seychelles, your squad over there, XL. But it'll be interesting. I don't think it's going to be a walkover like maybe some are predicting out there.
Denmark's a team that I think I expected a little bit more from, given how they did in all the preseason and all the talk they did. On paper now, second place, 10 points, that's pretty good, but they did get beat by Italy, I think, by a couple goals. And other than that, they drew Ivory Coast, and their only wins were against Argentina and New Zealand. So, it's a team that maybe they weren't taking the group stage. I don't know the mentality of the team. Maybe they weren't taking it like it was the be-all, end-all, and they didn't have to, per se, but they set themselves up with a tougher road than they otherwise might have. So I don't know. To me, they're still just one of the super interesting teams to watch. And then I was surprised by the 5-0 by Brazil. But like you said, 4 of those games, I think, were 1-goal wins. So I think you guys sound like you're aware that just because you did that doesn't mean that you're going to get through the next round. To me, this probably on paper is the second toughest group. I think Italy just, that looks worse than it really is because that was another quality team in there, and you had to beat them. So kudos to you. And you guys that's the one game you actually won by a few goals, right?
Yeah, we won that one 4-1.
The games make no sense sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, with them getting 1 point on the first game night, I'm intrigued to see who actually played. I haven't looked.
We spoke on Denmark briefly. I think the one thing, at least in my opinion, from when we played them, it could change by the next game day, as we all know, is that it was going around in the Discord that they were doing a lot of LBYs. Like, that was kind of the knock on them. And so I told our back line, okay, we know the squad likes to run a lot of LBYs, just follow the runners more than you would normally do it. And we ended up not allowing a goal. So, like, whether that's catching up to them now, or if people are just catching on, or if it's just not working as well, or maybe the people they lost because they had too many on certain teams, it's not working as right. For me, that team, I was expecting, I guess, maybe to actually put up like more of a fight. But like once we took out the LBYs, they didn't really have that many chances. So it is what it is.
Yeah, my only experience with them was in the Confederations Cup final. We hadn't played them prior to that, so it was an interesting game. And I think honestly, if we don't score in the first 5-10 minutes, I don't know that the game explodes the way it did. Although I do think that they should have covered Schmurda at all, and that would have been helpful. But as far as the actual group stage, I'm interested to see what they do moving forward, because if they do click, I think they'll be a very dangerous team. They do have a lot of talent, whether or not that shows up.
Well, let's move on to the next group, Group C. We, of course, have in first Seychelles with 13 points. Jamaica in second with 9 points, Colombia in third with 8. Then we have United States advancing on the fourth spot with 6 points. France, unlucky on goal differential, also has 6 points, but they end up in fifth. And then Netherlands, of course, finishes with just 1 point and no goals for. So I believe, Lobo, you're our resident Group C expert. How did you see this playing out? Did you think it was well-deserving the way it finished?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely challenging. Seychelles and Colombia were, I guess it's kind of depending on what team showed up that day. We always go, all three of us go back and forth, in friendlies and stuff. But Jamaica was kind of my surprise team. I think they were undefeated until they ended up playing us, USA. And they didn't, I guess they just didn't show out. And it's like the top 4 teams, it's pretty much given to anybody, any day. Depends. It was tough. Seychelles definitely deserved to be the top, seed. They were phenomenal. They're stacked from top to bottom. Colombia, you guys know that's like Cartel 2.0. Those guys are always legit, well played. And, in us at USA, we kind of struggled a little bit because, we don't practice. There's a lot of World Cup. It's kind of tough. When we show up, and we beat everybody. That's how we are. But when we don't show up, we obviously get embarrassed. We beat Jamaica, then turn around and lose to France, embarrassingly. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, I would say my surprise of this, this bracket was Colombia, in my opinion. You touched on it a little bit. And then maybe Exile could touch on a little bit more because you guys ended up drawing them.
Yeah.
But after the first game day of the group matches, they had just 1 point with that tie with Exile's squad. And it was looking kind of dire. And, they were able to squeak out 2 wins and a draw on the last game day to advance. But I expected them to be number 2. And, granted, they're only 1 point off of Jamaica. And I did get the 4 advancing right, but I think it just may be a little bit surprising in the order that they were in. Exile, what did you see from that Colombia squad?
So the Colombia game was actually the first game of the tournament for us.
Mm-hmm.
And historically, if you look back to the Confederations Cup, we actually played against Chile in the first match, and we went to penalties and ultimately won, and that propelled us to go forward. And I think the same thing kind of happened with Colombia. We had a bit of a wake-up call. We went back and forth quite a bit. No actual clear-cut chances, but we went back and forth. And then in about the 80th or so, Frijo got open and hit the ball right into Soccer Joe's face. He was playing goalkeeper, and it was a cross, and it was just a lucky save on us. And if he makes that, I don't know if we continue on to win the next game, but it was 0-0 at the end. And honestly, that was the wake-up call I think we needed going into the tournament. And I'm glad it happened in the first game and not the last. But it's one of those ones where they have a good squad. And, I feel like our team can beat any team in this tournament on any given day if we're on. But we can't overlook teams. And I think we looked beyond Colombia that night, and they almost killed us.
Do you feel like it lived up to the pre-tournament reputation as the group of death? Like every game was.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I don't want to discount anybody. I think the only game that was a blowout for us was Netherlands, and and that I guess is to be expected when they're not really putting up goals. So, you're not gonna win a lot of games if you're not scoring and you're giving up goals, but. Otherwise, I think USA is a much better team than 2 wins. I think Colombia probably should have beaten Jamaica, but Jamaica showed out really well even against us. They were one of the only teams to put up even a goal against us. So, when I'm looking at the group, I do think that this was a far superior group, top to bottom, save for Netherlands, but yeah,
because we friendly to, I believe, we did the United States more than a couple of times, but France too, and those were really even games. I'm like, Jesus, that group is going to be just insane. No easy games, but I feel like that's pretty consistent across the board because, with only 24 teams, there's a lot of good players in PCN, and I think you get pretty good rosters. But that group definitely stood out.
looking forward to the knockouts. We'll get to that more obviously, but I think all 4 of those teams have a legitimate shot to move on in their next matchup. For me, just the weird stat nerd to me, my favorite team in the entire tournament is France, because they lost 2-0, they won 2-0, they lost 2-0, they won 2-0, they lost 4-0.
Yeah,
Every game,
that's crazy.
only one team scored, and it was a multiple of 2. That's just weird, and I love it. That team almost qualified. I mean, if they get a draw in one more game, they go through. What do you think was missing for them? I mean, I definitely think if they were in a different group, they could have gotten out. But what do you think was missing for them?
I think that they were missing some final third work. To be honest, I think if they're more lethal in front of goal, they are a much more dangerous team. Honestly, I do think their goalkeeper, shout out to Brazilian, did a great job specifically against us. I didn't see him play against the other teams, but I mean, he had some saves where, he cut angles extremely well. He ran out when he needed to. He was cautious when he needed to be, and he made some incredible dives. So, I mean, good for him, and great for France. But I do think if they have a little bit more lethal attack in the final third, then they're a much better side.
Yeah, just to touch on that too, Brazilian was lights out against us. I mean, I can't say much about their attack. They destroyed us. I think they kind of got embarrassed by their fours. I think it was 4-0 loss against Colombia, and then they came out just hungry, and we came out flat. I can't say much about their attack because they beat us.
4 goals for and 8 against. So you ask, what do they need? Seems like a little bit of both. Like you can't score 4 goals in 5 games and expect to really have a great chance of advancing. With that being said, they were right on the cusp. And then the same goes to be said with 8 goals in 5 games against. You're averaging over a goal a game, almost up to 2. That's tough. You either got to have a really good offense or you got to have a little bit better defense. Either way, we did say before on the first podcast that this was kind of our wild card team in this group. They could come out and show out and prove us all wrong, or they could end up not advancing. We got the latter, unfortunately, for France. All right, well, let's move on to Group D. Chile finished in first with 13 points. Spain is in second with 10. Wales was in third with 8 points. England ended up in fourth with 6 points. And then Czech Republic and Peru did not make it. Czech with 4 points and Peru finishing last with 1 point. So Dorsey and Oswald, you guys are on the same squad and you guys were able to advance. What did you see from your fellow teams in this group?
Well, for me, I think honestly the best 4 teams in the group definitely advanced. It may not have been the order that I initially thought it would. I felt Spain and England were probably the top 2 teams in the group prior to the group stage starting. But, we managed to get a win against England on, a rule violation. And we came out and we beat Spain straight up. So, I mean, that was an odd one. Our game against Chile, I felt that we controlled the game quite a bit. They got an early goal on us, and we just couldn't finish. And then, obviously, we drew against Czech and Peru, but I mean, I don't know how Dorsey felt. I felt that I felt that we played them very, very well. And if we finished, we could easily have been top of the group. But I mean, that could have been, any of the top 4 teams I felt could have definitely won the group.
Yeah, I feel like every single result that Wales got was the wrong result. The first night, I feel like we had a lot of bad bounces both game days. A lot of things going against us. And the first game night, I think we should have won both games, or at least one of the 2. I think we were unlucky to have 2 points. And then the Chile game, so many chances, but it wasn't even just like, terrible finishing. It was like a goal line clearance, a post, this and that. And Chile got one quick header on us off the corner. So I feel like that should have been a draw or win. And the England game was probably the worst game we played all tournament. They beat us, but they broke a rule twice. So clearly that's an issue for them. They need to sort out. But we got a win from that game. And then I don't feel like it was undeserved, but to me, that was probably more of a 50-50. That could have been a draw kind of game. So I don't really know what to think. I think there was no real walkover. I know Peru only got 1 point, but to me, there was no walkover in that group. But there also wasn't a team that completely stood out as a, guaranteed semifinals or anything. So I don't know. Group D for me is still a wild card, and going up against Group A in the next round, I could see 4 teams going through from Group D. I could see all 4 getting knocked out. I really don't know what to expect.
Yeah, I mean, you speak on England being a surprise. If they don't get those 2 defaults, I think they end up in, I want to say second, or at least tied for second. So, I mean, this was kind of what I expected coming out. You know, we've played most of these teams in friendlies. I know we played y'all at Wales during the Confederations Cup, or not Confederations Cup, the preseason. So we've seen all of these groups with friendly Spain. All of those teams, the top 4 teams, looked really good. I hadn't seen much of Czech Republic, and the one time we played Peru, it wasn't quite a good game. So I wasn't really like surprised by any of these. If anything, I kind of agree with you, Oswald, that the order was more of the surprising part, and that very well could be, in fact, due to the defaults that they picked up from their own doing.
For the record, I think it's called the Pre-Cup Cup, is what we're affectionately calling it. The Pre-Cup Cup.
The pre-cup
Not to be
cup,
confused with the pre-cup.
or the
Right,
pre-cup.
exactly. Pre-Cup Cup.
Okay.
Side note,
Uh,
I knew the moment Kick Hasbo made that tournament, and he was all excited about it. I was like, "You're just going to confuse people for the next 3 weeks." And he's like, "That's cool."
Yeah, the Pre-Cup Cup. Yeah, no, to be honest with you, with Chile, it's interesting because Will is playing striker, and then they have Vicious, who's a former Atlanta guy, which I shout out to those 2 guys. That's awesome. I had no idea. But it's interesting to me to see that they had different scorers almost every game. It's very weird. So I would like to see some consistency in their next game.
I think Chile against us, you know, they got the set piece goal. Other than that, like they were a solid team. I think we kind of knew what to expect from them. I knew it was going to be a tight game. We were unlucky to finish some chances, but that's a good team. Spain was a tough game. We really had to play well. We got a late goal to go through, and then England, like I said, that was probably the worst game we played, and they were tough to beat. So there's flaws on all these teams, but I think they also have some real positives and some players who really showed out. And I'm just excited to see how all of us. I think everyone here is probably excited to see how the teams in their group do, because you know them a little bit better.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the 4-2-4 is officially a defensively solid formation, as we conceded 1 goal a game. So
Yeah,
Oh, is that good?
man, there's just a huge story behind that between myself and it was crazy when we sat down and decided, you know what, we're going to go ahead and do this, and we ran with it.
Yeah, definitely the most surprising formation I've seen in this World Cup. And I mean, you guys advanced, so I can't really knock it too much. I still have a lot of question marks around the formation and the gap between
Yeah, so maybe I can answer a few questions on that. So me and Jomo are are new to PCN this past season, and he got the Wales squad and basically said, you know, our biggest thing is like we're League 2. Not a whole lot of people are looking at us, so we need to do something that's outside of than everybody else. And we started out trialing in the 3-5-2, and we just couldn't get people to take us serious to come to the squad and trial for us. So he just said, and we dabbled in this at Atletico Madrid, the laugh of the thought of running a 4-2-4. And he texted me one night, you know, after like some bad trials. He's like, "We're running the 4-2-4." I was like, "Yeah, you know, whatever. We're not going to do that." He's like, "No, I'm serious. Like, I'm putting it out. We're 4-2-4. We need to do something different. Let's do it. Let's just commit and do it." So that's what it came down to. And lo and behold, like we attracted people that we didn't think would join the team to join it. You know, I think everybody came with the mentality like, let's do something and run with it. And you know, that's where it all began.
Kudos to you guys for trying something different and getting some people that I guess otherwise wouldn't look at League 2. I'm not sure if that's 100% true, but you know, there is some truth to that someone coming in from League 2, maybe the expectations aren't as high, and for you guys to advance, come in third, and end up with a positive record, I think, you know, might open some eyes, and especially depending on how you do in this next matchup. Be interesting to follow along and maybe watch some of your replays of the 4-2-4.
I mean, I will say for me, it definitely had an impact. I think I've made that pretty clear. Jomo actually reached out to me early in the World Cup process and you know said, "You want to play DM for me?" And I was like, I'm just looking to play center mid. So I was like, I appreciate you reaching out, but I was like, he said 3-5-2 DM. I was like, I've done that all FIFA. Then he messaged me, I'm going 4 back, and he said 4-2-4. He's like going outside the box, and I was like, well, I got a trial. I don't think it's a suicide, terrible, you're going to lose every game you play, because it's a group that's come together where it's a mix of League One, League Two, Super League, and I've been happy with how we played. It hasn't been perfect. I know there's issues, but like I think I don't expect like half the teams in a league to play us next season, but I don't think it's a formation that people should just laugh off from now on. And I never thought that's something I would necessarily say about the 4-2-4.
It really is beautiful.
Cheers,
Pep
Wayne.
Guardiola, PCN.
You heard it here first. All right.
Anytime.
Let's.
I'm probably still going to laugh it off. I want you to know that, except for in late game scenarios, but that's okay. It's a good thing to go out.
Laugh when we win the title.
I can't wait.
Right.
I can't wait to see this.
Dorsey's
You heard it here
talking now.
first.
Yeah.
My vote is Jomo for
All
that.
right. Let's move forward to the round of 16 matchups. I'll run through them very quickly, then we can just kind of talk about which one y'all are looking forward to the most. First, we have Mexico playing England, the first team in Group A versus the fourth team in Group D. And we have Denmark versus Colombia. We also have Seychelles versus Ivory Coast. And we have Spain versus Bosnia. On the other side of the bracket, we have Chile versus Portugal, Jamaica versus Argentina, Brazil versus USA, and then, of course, Germany versus Wales. So, guys, what games are you looking most forward to moving forward?
First of all, let's just take a second to imagine if these teams are actually playing in the World Cup against each other. There would just be some in the final 16. That would be fantastic. But I don't know. If I had to pick, other than obviously ourselves, which I've heard a lot about this English team, so I'll just talk about that. There's a lot going on, and we have a kind of hard time not preparing, but it's kind of like, what is this team really?
Yeah, I think for me, it's the Mexico, England, and the Brazil, USA in terms of two number one seeds that really could be under pressure. And then I think Denmark, Colombia to me is the standout. That's maybe two of the arguably, I don't know, 5 or 6 best teams going out in the round of 16. And then the winner of that plays Mexico, England. So that like quarter of the bracket, if you make it through there, to me, that's almost going to be the World Cup favorite, whoever makes it out of that group of 4.
On paper, that looks like the toughest bracket to me as well. That's the one where I circled it. I was like, that's 4 teams that at any given night could beat any of the teams in this tournament.
Yeah, I had the USA Brazil game circled. I think that's going to be a really, really good one. USA, if they're playing well, they're very, very good. And the Denmark Colombia game is definitely going to be up right too as well.
I'm a little disappointed nobody's bringing up Seychelles versus Ivory Coast. Sleeper. I'm really excited for that game. No, but in reality, Denmark Colombia obviously is the main choice for me. Having beaten both of them in consecutive games, not but a week ago, I love the way that Colombia plays, and I hate the way that Denmark plays, but they have good talent. So that's a game I definitely will be watching back for sure.
Yeah, mine would also probably be, if you look at the left side of the bracket, like you guys were saying earlier, it's really stacked over there compared to the right side. No offense to the right side, I'm on it. But definitely Denmark, Colombia, Brazil, USA. I mean, depends on who shows up on the game day on those. But like you said, Colombia is stacked. Goat runs a good, tight squad. And I just want them to beat those. I shouldn't say those. Beat the talkers of the chats.
Sure.
Definitely pulling for them.
I appreciate the diversion there.
Yeah.
I refute the assertion that the winner of Denmark, Colombia, and then also England, Mexico somehow is going to find their way into the final. I don't foresee that happening.
That's a lot of battle testing. And I just think the more tough matchups you play, the more if you come out of those, I think it makes you better. Obviously, if Seychelles or whoever comes out of that next group that would play them in the semis, I'm not saying that they're going to lose. I'm just saying that's a big advantage whoever makes out of that top group. And then I think that I don't know if there's any other matchup that's really standing out, but to me, there's a lot of teams in that middle group. All these teams that finished second and third. Your Jamaicas, your Argentinas, your Spains, Bosnias, and like in our Germany Wales one. Like I think I think you're going to get a semifinalist at least out of one of those. To me, it's just going to be fascinating to see which one it is.
On the flip side, we've kind of been talking about the best matchups. Is there one bracket that you think is the easiest to get through?
I think that Chile, just Chile side. I'm just looking at the teams. They don't really have the dominant team per se over there. Jamaica did really good. I know a couple guys in Argentina. I don't know. I'm pulling for Chile to come out of that up there. They grind, so.
Yeah, when I look at them myself, I look at my bracket first, of course. I think USA is going to be a real tough matchup. I think Germany, we've played them quite a few times. They were a tough matchup. And Wales, I think we've only played you guys once, maybe twice. I think we've won them, but even then, it was still a good game, and it wasn't like an easy coast by. So, like, all of those, I feel like no matter who we're playing in both, we know who we're playing in the first round, but in the second round, both teams could give us a good challenge. I think in that top right one with Chile, Portugal, Jamaica, and Argentina, we've played all of them. We've smashed on Portugal and Jamaica, and Chile and Argentina have given us fits, but I think we've still come away. I just feel like that as far as overall talent from top to bottom, for me, there's only really like two teams coming at it that could come out of that. Whereas you look at like top left, all four of those teams could come out. And you look at bottom left, I think there's probably three with Seychelles, Spain, and Bosnia.
I don't want to put pressure on them, but I do think Seychelles have the easiest route on paper to a semifinal in terms of their perceived talent and the teams they're playing. And I think that would be the biggest shocker to me of the next couple rounds is if they did not make it to the semis. Not to put any pressure on. I'm sure you guys already know your kind of labels of favorites, but I think to me that's the only group of four that I'm looking at, and I see a clear team that stands out to me.
To me, I feel like we need to invite that pressure a little bit because at this point, if we don't beat Ivory Coast, then we don't belong here. So for me, we had better win this next game or the next two games rather, and then we need to take on the next team. And if we actually foresee us being a great team, which we believe we are, we have to beat those opponents. So for me, bring on the pressure. That's fine. I honestly believe that we will be in the final, but it all depends on if we're able to get through the first team or not, because we showed it against Chile and against Colombia that the first game is always a tough one for us and really sets the tempo for the entire night.
All right, I appreciate everyone at home tuning in. I appreciate the panelists for joining me and having a good discussion, and of course Dorsey for joining me in the co-host role. Thank you all for listening, and you all have a nice night.